TableTop Farms. This is the outfit that has been funding our website for the last 2 years. So give them a big round of applause. They're great friends. We had the pleasure of going out and actually shooting a video, which you can find on our YouTube, that details what they do. And so here they are, Andrew and Lisa and their lovely daughter.
Grandpa, I've been thinking about you lately, wondering if you'd found your peace of mind.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, and thank you for having us. So we were just going to share about us, about Tabletop, and kind of see where things go. We have a wide facet of things that we do on the farm, and it would take a long time to kind of go through each individual detail. So we will let you guys kind of guide that conversation after we let you know, go through who we are, and just kind of let it play out from there. So don't be shy to speak up if you have any questions on what we do or anything of that nature. What did you say?
Did you bring any turnips?
I did not bring any salad turnips, but we did bring microgreens. That's over at Grumpy's tent.
Woo!
So if you guys are interested in trying microgreens, they're over there. So my name is Lisa Geyser. This is my husband Andrew and our daughter Ella Geyser. David is not here today. He has a football game this afternoon, and one of those school things that you have to be in school to be able to participate. So he was out today, but we were hoping to bring him, and he kind of does a little facet of our farm, just so that you guys had an idea of what each one of us kind of role in Tabletop. So Tabletop, we started Tabletop back in 2018. It was the end of 2017-18, and we had the vision to bring good food to our community and teach people about how good food is good for you, and it's not expensive, and how you can and how to cook with it. We are in kind of a lower income area. We are in a very rural area. We are 12 miles out of town. We're kind of in the middle of a triangle between towns, and so we're 12 miles out of our towns. And people just don't have the education and access to kind of the things that we provide. And so Tabletop came along, and we started growing with another family. We grow organically, so we are certified naturally grown, which basically means that we run under the organic standards plus some, but we are not certified by the feds. It's a grassroots operation that follows those standards. So we are headed towards our organic certification just for ease of our consumer and understanding what certified naturally grown means, because that's an education process in its own. So we are, like I said, we are organic. Our inputs into our farm and into our gardens are very kind of, I don't want to say raw material, but
Closed cycle for the most part.
yeah, there you go. So we use like alfalfa meal, bone meal, feather meal, blood meal, those kinds of things. Go ahead. Oh.
Cover crops, deal a lot with what we do. The cattle that she'll get into definitely do the majority of our pasture fertilization. We don't make any hay. We buy all of our hay because of the fertilization and the cattle and how we run cattle, and then compost. So that's where the closed system really comes in, a lot of that.
So when we started Tabletop, Andrew and I were working our full-time jobs, and we had, what was the first acreage on the...
Probably about half an acre we were doing.
Of gardening.
The first year, and then we got to an acre probably the second year. Still working both full-time jobs up till 2022. We were working full-time jobs, really putting most of that back into the farm heavily. In 2022, we both decided that we were going to make the farm work or for us, and rather than working for the farm, and or we'll just go find something that we can work for somebody else and make money. So
So the gardens now are right at an acre of vegetables. We have 2 to 3 acres of elderberries that we just put in. Then we also have a cow-calf pair operation where we run about 130 cow-calf pairs, over 1,000 acres. We have a broiler, pasture broiler operation, hens, farrow to finished pigs.
the cattle also get grass finishing on a small set of those.
So we kind of run the gamut between all of us, and it takes all of us to do it. So we've kind of, over the time period, we've had 2 years since we've both been home, and we've kind of fallen into where our tasks are on the farm. The kids are a huge help with us, and we couldn't do a lot of it without them. So Ella had started off with wanting to get into pigs, and that's where all these pigs kind of came from, is from her. And so we started off with piglets and just buying and finishing them out onto pasture. They do get a supplemented grain, so not just finishing on grass, but they do get grain, and they get highly rotated. And we got to a point where we couldn't find piglets. We couldn't find clean piglets or stuff that would fit our scenario. You know, around us we have a lot of CAFOs. I don't know if anybody knows what a confined animal, I call it factory operation, is, but we have a lot of pink pigs and a lot of barn pigs that are around us, but not any pasture type genetics around us. So we went out and found a mulefoot boar, which is a very kind of on the endangered list actually of pigs. And we started off with an old spot that we had kept from one of the piglet herds that we had bought, and started in on our breeder group. From then, we moved into a large black and our mulefoot boar, and have kind of just added on to the group since then. So since that kind of morphed, you know, from us buying piglets into doing our farrow to finish operation, everything on pasture. And so she was kind of the start of that and that inspiration. David has taken over with assistance, you know, because he's only 15. The cattle side of things, so he has a lot of advice and guidance from our end, but that's something that he really enjoys, taking on that and managing those kids there. Ella has, I've taken over the pigs here lately, and we've kind of done a switcheroo. You know, there's sometimes during all the farm life that you just need a change. You know, you love what you do, but you need a change. And so I had taken over her pigs, and she is now doing our pastured hens. Our hens, I'm probably jumping around here a lot, but it gives you a little idea of where we're at all over the place. Yeah, they're laughing at me. So our hens are also on pasture. They have a mobile coop that is moved weekly, depending on, you know, what they need for grass and size-wise and just what's going on. But they are always on pasture, and so that's something that she manages as well. But our big and everyday consuming item is our gardens, and that is something that we are finding, not just the vegetable side of things and the meat side of things, but we are finding that with everything that we have, we are not able to produce enough for the consumer. And so we are really highly working on upping production, and just seeing where it takes us. Another item that I did not mention here is we are a seed to plant, seed to end kind of production. So everything that we do for our gardens is started from seed in our greenhouse and taken out into the field. So we do not buy any plants, no seed starts, anything of that nature. Everything comes from seed. We also
The other big thing that we do with the gardens is we grow 365 days a year. So we are in The thing that we should also mention is when we decided to go full time on the farm for both of us, we did pick up 3 markets in the Kansas City area. So we're in 2 markets in the Kansas state of Kansas, and 1 in Missouri still, which definitely changed how we did a lot of things. Like she said, we can't produce enough, but we also don't have any more time. So we are actively always looking for employees, partners, to grow the operation. And really, TableTop was built originally to try to bring enterprises and families in the fold. We knew from the start that we would never be able to do everything that we wanted to be able to do by ourselves, particularly as high of a quality as what we wanted to do. And the goal was always to find interested parties that would be able to produce that, and us be able to pay a good wage, a good price for those products, and be able to do that. So we've definitely focused a lot on the marketing side, which is a huge beast of itself. But the production, it's kind of that twofold thing. If you have to have the production to have the advertising, you have to have the advertising to have the production. So.
And we've been able to kind of partner with a couple of our neighboring farms. One that helps us out with beef side of things, and growing that. That is becoming a huge demand. If you guys follow cattle markets at all, you know we're going to be pretty short here before too long on what is available for beef. And there are ones that also do raw milk, so we're kind of looking into that a little bit too. We've had some farmers approach us on growing sheep or chicken or something of that nature. We just haven't expanded out to that part, but that is what we would love to do, is bring community farming back in touch, you know, because like he said, we can't do everything. We don't want to do everything. We enjoy what we do, but we don't want to do everything. I mean, what fun is it to do it all by yourself? You know, you need a community, and as you guys know, I mean, that's why you're here, right?
It takes a lot of small farms to
Yeah.
produce any kind of food. The bigger the farm gets, the less, in my opinion, the less quality you get. You definitely get less efficient, and that's the issue that we want to be able to solve down the road. Is we live preparedness just because that's what we do. I mean, I'm never gonna worry about going hungry because we have a very large production. But it's figuring out how to up that to where we can feed more and more families on a consistent basis.
The other enterprise that we have built into the garden side of things that's not even in garden is microgreens. Microgreens, I don't know if you guys know what those are, but they are basically the 2 leaves that come out of a seed that you chop off, and they're a highly nutritious vegetable, I guess, sprouts, greens, and that is actually quite a bit of our production as well, besides just the gardens. So I don't know
What do you do on the farm on a daily basis?
what do I do on the farm on a daily basis? Run around like a chicken with my head cut off. So we are pretty scheduled on the farm. You know, what days we have harvest. We harvest 3 days a week, or pack 1 day a week, and then we try to catch up on the other day a week. And we sow 2 days a week in the greenhouse. Take care of the pigs, chickens. What do you do?
I mainly stick to a lot of the sales. I'm down here in the Kansas City area up to 3 times a week, plus Saturdays. On Saturdays, like I said, we're doing 3 different markets in the Kansas City area. And then I do a lot of the higher end fertility, irrigation, any tests. I deal a lot with the cattle, improving pastures, and really diving into refining the grass fed, grass finishing, and just trying to manage the whole. We don't own the 1,000 acres. We do rent some ground in that, but it's refining that and getting more production out of that 1,000 acres that we do have.
Yeah, and I think that, working as the family unit on the farm, we've kind of, like I said, we've kind of all settled into what we do on the farm and who kind of does what and what our strengths and our weaknesses are. We've really worked through quite a bit of that, especially the first year, being home, not working a full-time job. I mean, now he is my he is my everything, from he is my coworker, my husband, all the things, and working through all those facets and finding what things we all excel at. And so there's things on the business side that he kind of just went through that he manages and he goes and does. I kind of take on the role of, I've got greenhouse management and harvest management, and not trying to intermingle those things, and just finding, like I said, our strengths and our weaknesses, in working together to get everything done. And then helping those out, whenever we see that we all need a little bit of help somewhere. So, as far as the family unit goes, that's pretty one of those things that I think is pretty huge. That's a hard thing, I think, for people to work through, communicate, and just be a part of each other and in the family. So,
I guess what she's saying is it's been a learning curve for us.
yes, it has, in a roundabout way. So, but yeah, so is there anything that you guys are working through on your farms, on your homesteads, that maybe we can help you work through, question on, whatsoever? Yes, ma'am.
And it's just, it's really amazing that you're able to do that much variety. But I do find that the variety is nice. Like we do milk, and that milk, you just produce more than what you can make. I mean, it's a full-time job just to milk and maintain and process the milk. But we use it and fed our pigs and stuff with that kind of thing. So I was just kind of wondering. I want to congratulate you on all the variety that you do, and I'm amazed. But I also am curious, are you rotating and putting chickens out after the cows, and trying to do that kind of rotation to help with fertilization and management of land?
Yeah, so we do attempt that to the best of our ability. The chicken flock is definitely a lot smaller than what the cattle. So the cattle are moved at minimum once a day. And if I have time, which I don't normally have time, as employees come on, I want to see that to upwards of 4 times a day. The flock gets moved more behind the pigs than they do anything else, because the pigs only move, depending on size, on the feeders and the numbers, every week, maybe every 2 weeks as they're younger. So they definitely will follow the birds more often. The birds, the broilers, are right now actually doing the job for the elderberries, and they are in between each row of elderberries and trying to fertilize and up that pasture that those are in, which is a new one. So the quick answer is, as we get more chickens, it'll be more easier to do that. But it's never going to be enough for us to have enough chickens to be able to keep up with that rotation. I just couldn't move the chickens fast enough, and even if I did move them that fast, it's such a small dent in that factor. And there's lots of things I think we could dive into, the things that we have seen as far as the rotations go is where all three have been consistently is definitely the best pasture we have around. And I attribute more of that to the pigs. A lot of people kind of cringe when we talk about putting these pigs on pasture and how they root up and tear up. They don't do a whole lot until they get bored or it gets really wet. But what we have found,
or there's roots there that need to go away.
yeah, but what we have found is the injection of oxygen into the soil, the tilling of that soil per se, changes your pasture overnight, essentially. Not overnight, but it does take about 2 years. But where the pigs have been and the chickens have been, there's no doubt that pasture is definitely more lush. The cattle will. I have to be careful with the cattle on that particular areas where those small areas because they will actually grub that down to the ground. So we have to move them a little bit quicker through those areas. So.
I got you.
I will add on the pigs. We did do kind of an experiment with a feeder group last year that we put the feeder group pigs in with the hens, and they commingled wonderfully. The hens were so happy. They stayed in their fence instead of jumping over. Everybody really got along really nicely. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know more about how you market yourself.
First off was word of mouth. Second off is our customers. We do a social media presence. We always have. We started and dabbled into a YouTube channel, which some of you probably have seen a little bit of. That is a very intense workload to keep up a YouTube channel. So it kind of fell off, but the information is there and it's good. A lot of it is word of mouth. Whenever we have a customer come into our stand, and other customers are around, it's, oh my gosh, your food makes me feel so good. I really love the way your food tastes. It lasts so long. I can get 2 weeks out of your lettuce. Just comments like that, it just spreads. And just word of mouth from customers has been the most wonderful thing.
Really all the above is as well. We last year, early this year, I'll say this spring, we actually do some bartering, and we figured out pretty quick that we can't maintain our social media presence that we need to, and we barter with another gal that's what she specializes is Instagram, Facebook ads. So we provide her food every week. She provides us advertisement on that every week. We just pay for the Facebook ads themselves, but she does the labor for the barter. Another big one that we've really failed at, but we're going to be doing a big push is email. I have a very hard time grasping. I use email every day, but it just feels like email's a dead thing, but it's not. Everybody still uses email. Everything you get you have to have an email to get a Netflix account or whatever it may be. So it's the presence on how you do the emailing, I think plays a larger role in a lot of that. So.
Sir, did you have a question?
Any other questions?
Yes.
Fencing.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of fencing are you using to have everything stay in?
Say it again, sir.
What kind of fencing are you using? Are you using like a goat fence or electric fence or?
So the cattle are just a single strain electric fence. So on a daily, we obviously on the outside perimeter, as I replace this, we do live on a century farm. So my great grandfather bought the farm in 1917. There's a lot of dilapidated fence around the perimeter. I have ran a single strand around the perimeter of our farm for the most part. And that provides pretty well. If they touch that thing, they're touching barbed wire. It's that old barbed wire, and that'll learn them. But we do run about 10,000 volts on our main perimeter fencing. Otherwise, it's all polywire. So it's brought up, picked up every day, moved, several reels. The pigs, we have ran in the past a single wire on our pigs and worked 98% of the time. We decided that at some point that 2% of the time was too much time because it would happen every now and then, and it always would happen at the most inconvenient time. So we went to a Premier One pig fence, which is I believe it has 4 strands on it. It's a net, but it's only like 2 foot tall, and that thing works flawlessly. The chickens are behind netting. It's a 6 foot poultry netting. 4 foot. They don't respect that thing at all. It's not there for them. They fly over the top. They're free ranging. They're doing their thing. It's there for the raccoons at night, the predators, and all that other stuff. Yeah.
We have in the past with our broilers, we started off with, tell me the kind of tractor it is because I mess this up all the time.
The first one we did with the broilers was a Josh Satin model tractor. I think we ended up getting up to, I think the next batch we were going to do, I was going to have to build like 15 more of them things. And I said, no, we're not doing 15 more. I think we already had 5 or 6 of them. We were moving up to where we were doing 1,000 broilers at a time in an 8-week period. So we went and I essentially took a Joel Salatin tractor, put bicycle wheels on it, and put netting around them. And when they were young, we just tightened up the netting, so we were running 1,200 birds at a time at that point. I believe it was 2019, before we had any market around Kansas City, we were doing 4,000 broilers a year with our local community. 2020 happened and grain prices went on a different direction. Our local market would not sustain that number. So we slowed down and we introduced chicken back this year again, thinking that we could do, I think we ended up saying 1,200 or something. One of the markets that we were in didn't have chicken all winter long. And I said that needs to be fixed. So we thought we'd do 1,000 birds starting off, and the first 300 birds was gone in 2 weeks. And so we grossly underestimated that demand as well.
So what we found on the netted birds, I don't really have any data to back this up, but I feel that they had too much room and they didn't grow as fast or as well as the ones that were, I don't want to say confined in a tractor, but didn't have as much space to roam around. We're back to the Joel Salatin tractors?
Yeah, we're at a Joel Salatin tractor this year. I've got 3 more to build. We'll maintain those just because of the ease. There again with the elderberries. I don't, as long as there's regrowth in grass, I don't have a problem on some poor ground, which the elderberries are in a fairly poor ground. Running those broilers twice a year, 3 times a year if you can get it in those areas. So that's what we'll maintain with that. We are going to be moving up to doing more of the greenhouse style, I say tractor, but it will hold 500 birds at a time in one tunnel like that, but that will again be moved on a daily basis. So it all depends on tools. How we kind of have set up some different structures, and we're still building the structures in, is really to build our farm as a demo farm, to where we can bring in individuals to say, you have an acre, this is what you can do, this is what's possible. You have 5 acres, this is possible. You have 20 acres, this is possible. And obviously anything that we do is just on scale. I mean, it's literally, all of our garden beds are on 30-inch they're 30 inches wide, and we have 18-inch pathways on the outside. We never walk in our path or in our beds. So you can have 10 of those. We really have a benchmark. We were doing the math the other day. Each of our 30-inch beds should do $2,400 at minimum a year. And that is bare minimum for a 30-inch by 100-foot bed. So you're talking about 250 square foot a bed. should be doing $2,400 bare minimum, and we're probably closer to averaging 3. We should be, if we were refined and we had the employees, we would be doing probably about $5,000 or $6,000 per 250 square feet on just vegetables.
So that kind of takes your crop rotation out of your traditional field crop, soybeans and corn, off the plate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thinking outside the box, something that you can do on the farm besides just running a combine. Yeah. We started processing our meat on farm. Poultry in Missouri is, I don't know if it's any different in Kansas or not, but there's 3 qualifications. You can do exempt, state, and then USDA is what we have available. And so on the exemption side of things, we can do direct to consumer up to a certain amount of birds. I think ours was 10,000 at the time, but you cannot do more than 1 at the same time. I agree with you. I don't know why that is. Everything is stamped, labeled,
So
all the things.
What she's saying though is you cannot butcher we can't butcher our own birds, and the problem we have and we run into is we do cross state lines. Once you cross state lines, that's a federal regulation. That's a USDA regulation at that point. So what we wanted to do and what we had done, because we've got nice equipment to do all the poultry stuff, because that's what we were doing. We wanted to do both of them. We can keep them in separate freezers, whatever we needed to do. Cannot do it. They will not allow you to do your own stuff and then USDA, or vice versa, however you want to do it. It's a single source thing. So the trouble we were having, it's really hard to find poultry butchers. We were driving 2 hours for one. They closed down. I was then traveling another 4 hours for one. And luckily we had one just opened up last year. That's probably an hour from us, which is a really, really nice thing for us. And he actually learned from the guy that we were taking 4 hours away on that. But we cannot do both at that point. We had looked at building our own facility and building a USDA facility to expand and bring another family in. But we didn't have the time to get all that organized, and we couldn't find anybody that was really interested in the poultry production on that side. So that's what kind of had led us back to just going back to the USDA, especially since we're crossing state lines.
You're delivering both sides of the state line.
Yes.
And not letting them come to you and then they can take it wherever they want.
Correct.
Okay.
The biggest challenge that we've found is convenience. Everybody has gotten to where the convenience is the biggest factor, no matter what we look at. Price plays a role at some point, but if it's not convenient, it's not going to happen. So we have built a lot of the things that we do. Lettuce, for a perfect example, we wash all of our lettuce. It is washed, double washed, triple washed, and it is ready to eat out of the bag. There's some advantages to that. We get customers that regularly will tell us they get a month and a half out of our lettuce. But that's pre-harvest or post-harvest handling, in my opinion, a lot. But there again, it comes back to that convenience factor of they don't have to do anything. They dump it on their plate and they have dinner. Yep. So we've done a lot of things like that with the microgreens. They're all ready to eat. We don't wash the microgreens because that would shorten the life, but there's no need to. We don't spray anything on them, anything like that. So, but we also build a power salad to where now it's a multiple microgreens in one thing. We sell our own ranch dressing. We have our own house dressing. We make pesto as a value added. So that's stuff that we didn't even get into really, but we're looking for the second stream. So we may take produce to the market. If it doesn't sell, which is a rarity, we are currently growing more and more just to value add it. But what the plan was originally was if we wasn't able to sell produce, we'd bring it back and use pesto or make pesto out of a kale or basil or something like that. And that was kind of the plan. But like I said, we're actually growing it. There's a demand for it because the convenience of, well, I don't have to make it. It's organic already, so I just serve it to my family. I'm not a big pesto person, but I found that what is pesto? So pesto is essentially, traditionally, it is a green, and then they put a pine nut or something in it, a little bit of garlic, and it's olive oil. We've taken it from basil. We now do spinach, kale, cilantro, carrot top pesto. We do it dairy free. So we're not putting any Parmesan cheese. That's a big ingredient in it. We use a nutritional yeast. And then we're generally using like a walnut or something like that. We'd like to kind of figure out how, again, it's one of those things, how can we make it available for everybody? We don't bend over backwards for that, but it's definitely something that we try to focus on. But yeah, it's just another way of taking a piece of kale that somebody's not going to eat or doesn't want. All of a sudden, now it's a sweet treat that you can use with pretzels. Because like I was about to say was, I'm not a pesto fan, but you give me a pretzel and kale, pesto, and I'll eat it all day long. So it's kind of crazy, but.
But we also take like chickens. We'll do cooked chicken. We'll take the items that usually are less sellable for people, you know, like the feet and the backs and the necks and things that would be traditionally discarded, and I'll bring them home and out of our certified kitchen do bone broth, you know, or we'll do hard-boiled eggs or stuff that we know that people want, that convenience factor maybe for their kids, that mom that doesn't have time to cook these things, you know, an elderly person that needs more nutrition in their diet, but, you know, they just don't feel it's only for me, so I'm not going to do it kind of thing, you know, that they'll drink the bone broth or whatnot. And so we kind of think of those things as we're going through, you know, how can we value add this and bring it to the community. So
you can also, if you guys don't mind some constructive input, to get away from the nut thing for pesto, you can use sunflower seeds. We've done it as a base before. It works great.
Thank you. We'll have to try that.
And that's what's great about community.
Amen, right? Woo!
Full of questions here. So, working cattle is a big job, and processing. Sounds like you outsource your processing on your meat. Do you have extra employees come in just to work your cattle, or are they employees? How many employees do you have?
No, nobody works the cattle but me. Employees right now, we have one gal that is a neighbor down the road. I'm going to call her full time. She's been with us for almost a year now. Sub 40 hours, 30 some odd hours. Right now we've had.
She's primarily garden help.
Yeah. She's garden help. No animals get really touched besides with the family. I'm not opposed to that. I'm open to that. I'm encouraging somebody to help more with that. But the cattle really, except for the very few times when we're separating off or something like that, they don't take very much time, in all honesty, for us. I've been doing it long enough now to where I can put a fence out, and we're sub-paddocking. So the 130 head, when they're all together, right now we have our grass finishers actually separated from those because of bulls that we want different genetics for the between the two. But when the main herd is through together, they're getting about 5 to 6 acres at a time. And so it's not really hard. I don't do a lot of back fencing. It's not necessary, I find, a lot of times. So it's literally one fence that may be 300 yards long, with a four-wheeler, and I reel it out. With the four-wheeler, I go with the reel, make my line, and then when I come back, I just step them in as I come back with those. So we've had some in this past summer. 2 neighbor boys that were high school age and middle school age help. Um, it's one of those things that we're looking more for full-time adult. Um, Kids are a great help, but there's a lot of follow through with it, and I'm following back a lot of times. And while it still help, it makes more work sometimes too. So
Yeah, so the cows actually, so we've got 2 separate herds. We've got our custom grazers, which I consider we're just babysitters. You know, we just make babies with this group, and then we have our South Pole herd. And genetics is something totally to look into. You know, our South Pole herd, since they've been away from the other herd is a Black Angus cross Stockard mix and mutts. The South Poles are such a docile, low key, very efficient cow, and anybody can work them suckers. I mean, those girls don't get upset about much. You know, so I think that plays a huge role into your livestock management as to what you're actually keeping. You know, we go through, whether it be somebody else's cows that we're babysitting and doing the thing with, or even our own herd, or the pigs, chickens, whatever. If you're mean, you go away. You know, we don't keep anything that doesn't work in our system. Um, there's too much at risk. You know, you're an animal. You know, there's more of you. I can find another pig. I can find another whatever. You have to work in our system or you go away. And so we have easy keepers. We don't handle that.
Can you talk about regenerating or building up a pasture that may be overgrazed, dramatically overgrazed? I have one I'm going to be working on, but I'd like to hear what you've done or what your process is or what it looks like to get that bad or okay pasture to what you like.
we don't have enough time in the day for me to talk about this, but I think a lot of it comes down to I'm always looking, experimenting, trying to figure out why things are what they are. So first thing I'm looking at is species in the field, provided there are species in that field, that it's not just a barren weed. So things like thistle. Thistle, I can guarantee you, if you got thistle growing, it's compacted and it's low on calcium. Well, the problem is, and thistle's an easy example of that, because you can put all the calcium you want to on the soil, you can spray calcium, but you're limited to the oxygen of that compaction in that soil. So my first thing is always looking at compaction layers, trying to dig down, figuring out how deep that is. We're doing an experiment now, trying to figure out cover crops will work to break compaction. How much time do you have? How long do you want to do it? I'm not opposed to a pasture that I need, and I need all the ground I can get when I'm doing grass finishing and things like that, and I need high quality. I'm not opposed to putting something in the ground, whether it be iron. I like to avoid it because we do have rock shelves, and I don't like breaking equipment, and equipment's expensive. So we're doing some. I'm in the process of probably next week actually going down by Joplin to see a piece of equipment that they build down in Texas. It's a big roller, 36-inch drum roller. It's got 6-inch monster. It's not really spikes. They're more of like a blade that's built kind of like a roller crimper. The drier it is, the more fracturing of ground it will do. They claim 24 inches. Independent studies have shown 18 inches. And if I can roll it on the ground and I'm not having to put anything in the ground, that's a win-win for me. You can graze the grass the next day. It doesn't damage the ground. It just literally punctures it and breaks the ground up to that depth. So to me, it's getting the oxygen first. Go ahead. No, not really. But yeah, but kind of, yeah. So it's getting the oxygen in first, because any life needs oxygen. I mean, if we can spray or put any kind of microbe we want to on our pastures, but if it's not going to have a place to live, it's not going to survive very long. So once we get oxygen in the soil, once I know, and again that kind of comes back to that pigs, they're only going to get so deep, obviously, but then it's calcium is the next biggest thing for me, and calcium levels need to be up there. Calcium is what makes everything grow through and move through the plant. And then it's really after that, it's bonuses of I'm trying to get microbial life. And the biggest thing with that is it's feeding that microbial life. And once you can get food on that ground, and that's where cover crops play the biggest role, is doing that and refining that. I'm a firm believer that anywhere, and we're all for rolling hills. We don't have any prime farm ground that we're on. If I had bought a farm a mile to my northwest, it'd be nothing but river bottoms. So we have decent soil, but we have a lot of rock shelf, things like that. But I'm a firm believer that we should be easily able to, in my lifetime, get 24 inches of topsoil on that ground. But I think it's oxygen is the biggest limiting factor in that. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that because, like I said, we did some experimenting on a farm down the road where there's a machine out there, a drill actually, a planter, that will harrow the ground 6 inches down, put your fertilizer at that depth, fill it in, and then seed at the same time. Dramatic difference on how that, and that was actually done in a fescue pasture, no spraying, nothing like that, on that cover crop, that how it came up as opposed to just a regular drill. Well, it broke a compaction layer, but my big thing is that's great. I can hit that compaction layer, but I need to break it all the way through. So that's the other, because you can always go through and disc, and you're gonna inject that oxygen, but it's quickly going to compact right back because you're not breaking all the way through that. So that's the challenge I think is figuring out. Then the biggest thing you can do to start off with is go in there, figure out how deep that compaction layer is. But cover crop is not the fastest way, but it's the easiest way to start that. And there's a lot of different species out there that can do that. Annual rye is a really good for grazing. 100 psi at root tip. So it can literally push 100 pounds per square inch on that root tip of annual rye. And it's the nice thing about that is in some areas it'll survive the winter fairly easy, not going to seed, but it will reseed itself. So sorghum Sudan is another one to look at. With the hot, dry summers we get, sorghum Sudan doesn't care. It likes a hot, dry. If it gets a little bit of rain when you get it in there in the early spring, but it does really well at breaking compaction layers as well.
Beautiful.
Yes. Very little, but yes.
She's an emotional support daughter.
Yeah.
With the dog.
With
No,
an emotional
she-
support dog.
Yes. So, like I said earlier, she really got us into the pig side of things, and we had traveled out to Virginia to do schooling, and I encourage that. There are so many farms out there doing so many great things, and learning from each other to bring onto your own farm, and then tweaking it to your own farm is great.
We try to have mentors in everything we do. Some of them are via YouTube. Some of them just our mentor in the vegetables to give you a scope of an idea. Previous years on just about an acre. Now most of his acre is covered, so he does a lot of cat tunnels that are temporary tunnels, things like that. But he was pushing $750,000 on an acre, doing a year-round production. So we know it's possible on doing a lot of that stuff, but it's big on finding mentors, and that's where we're really pushing to get into is we want to be able to mentor, but there's only so much that we feel that we could do at this point. But we started somewhere and we learned, so we feel that we need to be able to give back too. So that's a big next step of what we want to be able to do. Hence, part of the demo farm and things like that. And that's why we got the YouTube channel started. I haven't been able to get back into the YouTube thing. We want to be able to do that. We do dabble on the TikTok and trying to do that because it's short. I can be out in the field, boom, and be done. So you can find us on the Facebook and all Instagram and all that kind of stuff. We're trying to get more into that as time allows. So, but you can always contact us. Our contacts are out there all over the website or all the internet. If you Google Tabletop Farms, we should be the first thing that pops up. And we're more than happy to answer questions. You can go right through the website and ask those questions. You can, our numbers are on there, text, call, all that good stuff. So
Where can we find you at next? Where are you guys going after this?
tomorrow we're going to be over at our 3 markets in Overland Park, Lenexa, and then Brookside, Missouri. Our plan right now is me and Lisa will actually bring one of the trailers back over here, and we're going to spend the afternoon. So hopefully we're going to be about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock back over here and spend the afternoon and talk and relax and hang out. So
Fantastic, fantastic.
It's great seeing the family work together and support each other with the ups and downs.
Yep.
Work with each other.
Thank you. That's all we got.
Do we have any other questions for Tabletop?
I don't know that I've got any hacker-eye turnips. I will tell you, in the spring, we will be bringing them. Just for you, Tag. So, if there was something that somebody wanted, you could go to the website and put a comment on there. We can probably bring some stuff over tomorrow if you're interested. So,
Fantastic.
all right.
All right, let's give them a round.
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Very much, guys. Oh, look, real quick.
I'll say out loud. I can say it loud. Hey, let's reward Andrew and Lisa for coming down, and let's get on their website and make sure they bring a full trailer back.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Let's give them a round of applause, folks. I know it's warm. Andrew, Lisa, our most support daughter, and dog.
Hey, Jasper.
The next presentation will be at 3 o'clock right here. And it's going to be Dr. Vance Lassie from Holton Direct here on reclaiming our medical system through common sense and the free market.